name's Deborah Klock. I'm the Vice President of Academic Affairs, and just want to read the Native Land Acknowledgement that was recently adopted by our Board of Trustees. In the spirit of community, we acknowledge that the Mendocino Lake Community College District encompasses the ancestral and present homeland of the indigenous nations of Mendocino and Lake counties, including the Caddo, Conco, Nomlaki, Pomo, Pit River, Sinkyone, Wailaki, and Yuki. We recognize, honor, and respect these nations as the traditional stewards of the lands and water on which the district is now present. And I also, because today's theme is education, just want to acknowledge the historical use of education as really an occupation of Native cultures, and has been used historically to displace language and to displace Native ways of knowing. I think it's important that we acknowledge that, as of course we're, as educators, trying to do better. We can't undo, but we can certainly try to do better and really recognize that. I think that education at its best really helps people know who they are and the impact that they can have on the world. And so I thank our speakers for helping us grow in that way, and Rebecca and Minerva and back there for helping put together this symposium. And thank you so much, and I'll sit down and listen.
Well, I'd like to introduce our panel here, and again, thank them for being here. Our first panelist to speak, they're not sitting in order. Our first panelist to speak will be Lori Thomas. Lori is a member of Hopland, as she said, and she has been an adjunct professor for Mendocino College for quite some time and is now a full-time ethnic studies professor at Santa Rosa Junior College. And we're very happy to have Eliste Reeves here also. She's an elder from Round Valley who's very dedicated to preserving her cultural knowledge and passing that on. And I do want to acknowledge that, as we all know, this has been a very difficult week for Round Valley, and so I'm really especially grateful that she was still able to join us today. And our last speaker will be Beniakem Cromwell, who is the Chairman of Robinson Rancheria, and in that role has really been focused on mentoring youth and working with the educational system in Lake County to better support Native youth. I'll turn things over to Lori.
Can you say his name again?
Beniakem.
Beni, B-E-N-I. Last name Cromwell, C-R-O-M-W-E-L-L.
Thank you so much.
Or Chairman for short.
Yes.
Here, I'm going to hand these out. Go ahead and take my card. In case you have any questions, you can email me. You can also follow me on Facebook. So, it's good to see everyone today. My name is Lori Lewa Thomas, and I have been teaching at Mendocino College now for almost 3 years, and I have been teaching Native American history, ethnic studies, Pacific Coast Indian cultures, and federal policy and law. And growing up in Point Arena and being a native from Mendocino County, I'm actually from a whole bunch of tribes, 14 villages that I could count. And that's in Lake Mendocino and Sonoma County and Marin County. But my husband is an Elem Indian. He's from Clear Lake Oaks here. His name is Delbert Thomas. And so I just recently moved to Santa Rosa because I took a job, but I have been teaching, and I've wanted to be a teacher since I was 4 years old. I used to play tribal office when I was little. I was imitating BIA superintendents when I was like 5 and 6 years old. I was raised outside of Indian Health Service and Bureau of Indian Affairs offices because my parents were both tribal leaders. And I mean, they actually made Consolidated Tribal Health. They created it out of scratch and negotiated the very first contract and managed to walk out there with a couple, like 20-something million extra. I mean, that's how good they were back in the day for their time. And they did that all without computers.
Wow.
So, having my parents, watching them display leadership was really, really a great thing. Watching both of them basically spend all of their time talking about how they want to make life better for people. I mean, literally, those are the conversations that I listened to as a kid, was how to make life better for Indian people, how to make better health care, how to advance schooling. I mean, I watched my mother storm the school district and take over in the impact aid monies. I mean, where do you ever see that? You'll never see that again, not in our lifetime. Now school district superintendents decide mostly, but they did those things. And I decided to be an educator because I believe I love learning. I love teaching. I think reading is fun, and I want people to know how fun learning is, and I encourage people to keep learning. I do it all the time. I'm trying to learn how to can food right now. Because the apocalypse is coming, guys. I always keep saying the zombie apocalypse is going to come. And those are prophecies, by the way. I introduce stories in all of my classes I teach. But those stories mean something. Just like when I was driving by coming here, I was remembering all the stories that I know, how my 95-year-old cousin told me how there's a cave over there by the Point Arena Lighthouse that comes out right over here by Canocti. And there's two little mounds, the two little hills that are over there by Kelseyville or by the Riviera, and that's where they come out into. Or how I had storytellers come to my class, a friend from Nevada, and I had one from Laytonville come in, and all of our oral histories converged right in one story, talking about those caves from Westport, opened up in Nevada. My Nevada friend said, "Oh my God, my great aunt told me that there's caves that go all the way to the ocean." And then I was like, "Oh my God," and then I was telling my stories, and they just all converge. And those stories, for me, the stories are what save my classes. The stories are what people want to hear. They're not going to sit and remember. When I sit and look at some books, I'm like, yeah, that's great. It's a really great resources, but they're not going to read it. They're just not. And I know it. So I won't do that. I always try to find interesting things, and I'm always figuring out ways to be a better teacher using interesting resources. But one of the main things is why I teach and why I believe in education so much is because I want to create future teachers. I want to create people who come and, okay, get a certificate. At least get a certificate. You've got to have something on your job application. You've got to figure out a way to support yourself and earn a living. Get a certificate and then get an associate degree. Hey, and then keep going. Transfer. Just pump them up with resources and support, and I'm telling you, it can happen. And I want students to go to four-year colleges, and somebody's going to have to go get a master's degree because we need that. We need future teachers. And so I'm already grooming a couple. Since I got to Santa Rosa, I've convinced 5 students to major in Native American Studies. See, I teach in a department that is created through protest. The Black Student Union during the Floyd protest, all the civil uprising that took place a few years back. The Black Student Union at Santa Rosa Junior College called for a demand for an ethnic studies department, and they got it. And there's 5 of us new professors. There's African American studies, there's Asian American studies, there's Chicanics, Latinx studies, and I'm the Native American studies professor. And the reason why, and it was hard, I didn't want to leave Mendocino. My heart is still here at this college, along with the people. But I had a chance to do my dream and develop a program the way I always wanted to. And so I'm doing that, and it's so much fun. I have right now I'm teaching Introduction to Native American Studies, but I have 5 classes that I'm creating right now. It takes 1 whole year to get it, so I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get going. I teach, I'm currently teaching Native American Federal Policy and Law. I'm teaching an original Californian class, I'm gonna change the title of that because I don't like it. But I'm gonna teach a California class in the fall. and I have 5 students who are majoring in it right now. And so I'm really, really excited about that. And the reason why I think education is so important is because, you know, I mean, yeah, you have all those cliches, those one-liners and stuff where people say, you know, people can't take it away from you, or I'm hoping for some really smart policy changes in the future. That's what I'm hoping for. I tell them that. I tell the students that. That's what I'm really hoping, that you have a really rounded perspective about multi-perspectives. I don't just teach, because I'm aware even of my own biases as a California Indian woman. I'm aware of those. And so I want people to be able to make good decisions and to have all the stories. So when I teach about activism, I don't just teach, that, hey, Leonard Peltier needs to be released. I actually teach Devin Masua's version of that too, and remind people that Anna Mae Pictou Aquash was also an important person and an important woman. And not all AIM activists were very good to women either back then. So I tell the whole truth, all of it. I include Robert Warrior's version of that story. Luana Quitiquit was actually the receptionist at the Alcatraz occupation, and she's even in there. So there's like really good local stories here. Carmen Christie from Ukiah, they were all in these stories. And so those are all things that I teach. I teach the whole thing, and then I let people decide what it is that they want to believe in. But I'm having a lot of fun. I'm currently getting ready to teach summer a history course. That has been the most popular demand class ever. Native American history. People just love Indians. They love us. They love us so much they want to be us. Hey. No. But anyways, so that's what I do. I teach. I try to use indigenous pedagogies, and what I mean is, like, I am aware of what materials I'm using, what kind of assignments that I'm using. I even create this one that's called a community service project. And especially during COVID, it was really intense. I was working up in Covelo. By the way, I like to go to the remote, isolated places because I grew up in one. I know as a professor what it's like when students are living in places and living like off grid in trailers with batteries and limited internet, and that they can't, so I started like downloading all my stuff on YouTube and, figuring out ways that we could coordinate how to get them online and whatnot, even getting creative as, snapping pictures of your handwritten work and texting it to me during the fires. Okay, what's next? We've had a pandemic, we've had fires, we've had extreme weather situation with the locusts. Are they coming next? If so, I will figure out a way to teach that time too. But mostly, I just want people to know that I have a lot of fun. I laugh a lot in class. I try to make students inspired and want to learn more. And one of the ways that I do that is I don't allow them to be bored. I don't allow them to go to sleep. Run through the classroom. I'm dramatic with my flailing arms and everything. Anyways, I have a lot of fun. And the reason why I decided to come in person is because I'm so tired of Zooming. And it feels good to be actually out and around people again. And I've never been, I haven't been able to teach at this center, which I've always wanted to come to. And this is a beautiful center. I really love it. I've taught at Fort Bragg. I've taught Lower Lake and Upper Lake High School, Upward Bounders. I taught in Covelo on Friday nights. Drove all the way to Covelo. Made my husband ride with me, though. I was scared. I was telling her she knows my mom, and so I can't wait to talk to you more. Anyway, so that's what I do, and so I like those remote areas a lot. And what I try to do is always inspire students to stay in school, and when they fizzle off, I go and get them, and I bring them back. And I figure out solutions to their problems in order to get them back and say, look, it's not over. And I've managed to get some students who have failed my classes to come back. I even got one woman to come back for the 3rd time to finally pass. And so things like that, never giving up on students, always trying to make them feel good about themselves, make them feel special about themselves. that's why I love being a teacher.
Oh.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get a PowerPoint presentation up, so if you'll just give me one moment to share the screen. So Eliste, I can forward through the slides for you, or if you push this button right here, it goes on to the next slide.
To do what?
If you push this button here,
Uh-huh.
it'll go forward like that.
Okay.
That.
This button here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just like this.
Okay. All right.
My name is Eliste Reeves. I am a member of the. I think we're trying to get it.
Yeah. Just
Oh,
one.
they're trying to get it up on this one.
Okay.
It's on the table.
Oh.
It's the. I'm Yuki. Yeah.
That's marvelous. All Reeves, I'm related to the Reeves. That's right. Yeah. Oh my God. My son is.
There we go. Okay, sorry about the delay. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Eliste Reeves. I'm a member of the Yuki tribe. We're United Tribes of Round Valley Indian Reservation, and I grew up there all my life. I was able to travel somewhat in a work program that sent us to work at Sherman Institute, the native school there, and I worked on the Air Force base, and it was fun. It was exciting, but it was to help us to be educated, to leave the valley, and to participate in other other workplaces. So that was really good. I've long seen the problems that we've had at Round Valley, which weren't good. They haven't, been able to pull out of that. And as most of you, she mentioned, heard we had another huge loss with a young 16-year-old girl. And it has shaken our valley to the point of where the elders are stepping up. I'm one of them, to say, what is going on here? There needs to be a change. I watch people come in back and forth, and now we have a big swarm of people coming in. I know that they're not doing good. I know that they're bringing drugs and alcohol to our valley, and this is what has been our downfall, and more so now. I'm really interested in stepping up to see and work with other people on how we can, bring our people out of that. We are a member, like I said, seven tribes that were forced into the valley. We were the original tribe, and we have never been able to step up and go ahead because of the other tribes always holding us down. We are now in a situation with a man by the name of Serenius Hastings, and it was found that he had come in and had ordered the killing of the Yuki people who were slaughtered, and the land was taken. So sometimes I ride around and say, I'm supposed to be really rich. I shouldn't be wanting for anything, I don't own a car, I don't own a home, I don't own these things. But I look at it and the situation with the other tribes who want to hold us down because we're the original tribe there. They, I think, they have serious fears about what we might do, if we could step up to be in the power category there. But we have no intentions of doing that. I have worked hard and long. We struggle with our council, struggle with the Hastings School down there, the college, and finally we're getting a little breakthrough. What I'm wanting to see, though, and I've told the other natives there, I work pretty well with them, is that if we can get anything going, we can get any help through, with the reparations and things that they can help us with, the whole valley, it will help our whole valley. And I'm really big time, I like that when you talk about the education for our people. I like that. I want to see things be done for our children so that they can step up and meet somebody like you and other people that are educators. You know, I have family members who stepped out and did really well for themselves, not with any help from the reservation, but I would like to see them come back and at least offer, you know, how they did it, how they were able to do that. And that's kind of where I'm at with that, for the education for our young people. Because we go to a school and we've never been able to come up. I used to always say, don't have an excuse for why you're a failure if you're a native. Don't point back and say, this is what happened. That happened a long time ago, but now you know, and some other people that are educated that live in the valley are stepping up and saying, hey, we still live there. We've never been able to come up and be a success, because whatever we did was never enough. It was never good enough. But I want to see that change. I want to see our people do better. And the other thing I'm big on is history. I want our truth to be told about us, what happened to us, because then I think we can move forward. Until then, we're held in this place where we're ignored. You hear them people talking about all the other, and I listen for Native Americans, nothing. So that's where we're at, and I would like to see the situation change. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beniakem Cromwell, a member of Robinson Rancheria on my mother's side. My father's side is from Big Valley, and I have a lot of things on my resume: accolades, education, work history, my political position, but father of 3 is the most important, an uncle of many. That's what our community needs: healthy men in our community to help mentor and be there. And so that's who I am. And I just want to say, you know, on Earth Day Eve, I call it Mother Earth. We call it Mother Earth. And it has that connotation of you take care of your mother. You don't just treat your mother one day out of the year, unless it's her birthday. But you don't just treat your mother one day better than the other days. We call it Mother Earth. You have that connection to it, that love for it, that passion for it. As I walk or I jog in the mornings, I see all this garbage, and I'm like, all right, I'm coming back and I'm picking you up. You're not staying there. But that's so on the eve of a beautiful, you know, it's a start to care about our planet. It's a start, and I'm a global citizen. Yes, I'm from Lake County. Yes, I'm tribal, but I'm a global citizen, and our technology shows that, and how we learn and who we can meet in these different places. So I just wanted to recognize that. I also wanted to recognize the Mendocino staff, the lake site here, the president who's sitting in the back, the board of trustees, and the one for this area, Tamajo Anderson, who's a member of Scotts Valley. I wanted to recognize them and say thank you for this opportunity to sit with these wonderful people, meet them, get to sit with them, get to listen to them, learn from them. So I'm just honored. So thank you very much for that opportunity. I came from Robinson Rancheria, and all I want to do is play sports. That's it. I just want to grow up, be a pro athlete, get all this money, and just sit back. Something happened along the way. My growth spurt stopped, my muscle, my strength, my speed, that all kind of came to an end. So I had to figure out plan B. But before plan B, I just cared about playing, competition, doing my best. Holding this chip on my shoulder, being poor, being from a tribal nation. And so I had all these things where I'm like, I'm going to get better. I have to get better. How am I going to compete? And so like there were times where you're taking your team photo with your basketball team, and there's 12 guys on the team, and 10 of them have the same shoes, all nice red and white shoes because we're from Upper Lake, and there's 2 of us that did it, and we're both Native. And so those are the opportunities where you say, I can still compete. Maybe I don't have that resources like others might, but I'm not going to stop. And so these are things that sports taught me. And then when I went to college in Sacramento out of Upper Lake, I tried out for the baseball team, and I found out, oh yeah, they passed me up a while ago. Then I tried out for the basketball team, and I'm like, oh yeah, they passed me up too. So here I am at school, what am I going to do? And I'm like, well, maybe I'll just go to class. And at class, I started developing all those strengths from practice, discipline, do it again, don't stop, don't give up on yourself. And so I just started going through school, and I'm like, I'm not actually bad at school. I didn't know that. I thought I was just going to school to play sports and just trying to keep my average up. But so I was grateful that those things converted, you know, that striving, that not wanting to quit, proving I can be just as good as others. It happened in the classroom too for me, and I'm grateful for that. Because after my degree and junior college, I did go to the Arizona State University. I was so happy to be accepted there. So happy that I cried when I got my acceptance letter, not when I got my diploma. That there was a place that said, hey, this kid from Upper Lake, this kid from Nice, this young man from the res, he can leave his own state, he can leave his own region, he can start anew, and he can go to school here. And that just gave me all the confidence in the world. And so what am I going to study while I'm there? Sociology came up. I always wondered why we act different on the res, talk different on the res, play sports different on the res. But then when we go to schools or we go to meetings, we're like, that's not how you act. That's not your personality. Where are you at? And so I just had to figure these things out. Why do we change when we get out of that border? Why do we treat our adults different from inside the res to outside the res? Why don't we see, and that's when I learned about epigenetics. That's when I learned about historical trauma. So I learned about mistrust and things like that. And so that's why I went to school for sociology. And ASU was grateful enough to give me a degree. But before I left, they said, you have to do something with this. I'm like, no, I don't. I got it. I earned it. And I said, no, you don't get it unless you're going to do something with it. And it was a real speech that said, if you're a sociology major, that's social change. Be that change agent. Be that person that changes. And one of our teachers, for our final, it was a great final. I love this final. She said, write 2 letters. That's all you have to do. Just write 2 letters. Make sure it's certified. Send me the receipt, and I make sure that you mailed it. But just write 2 letters. Like, 2 letters? That's easy. I love this final. She said, make sure it counts. Make sure it goes to the person that it's supposed to go to. Make sure it says what it's supposed to say. And make sure it's about something that you're passionate about. And so I thought about it, and I thought, well, I'll write my superintendent at my old high school, and I'm going to light them up. I'm going to tell them our graduation rates aren't good. I'm going to tell them that our suspensions aren't fair. I'm going to tell them that you don't have resources for us. You don't have any teachers that look like us, any coaches like us. You don't have any classrooms for us, any groups for us. And so I wrote that letter, just like a scathing college kid who thinks he knows it all. And then a month later, he wrote me back. I was like, oh, all right. This is kind of before, maybe not before email, but he wrote me a letter back. So I read it. I'm like, oh yeah, let's see what this guy's going to say. Let's see how he's going to excuse all this away. And he said, please come make a difference. Please come home. You're right. You're not wrong. But we need people like you who care, who want to come home and make a difference in your high school, in your town, in your tribe, and for your people. I was like, wait a minute, this went totally off the rails. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go back and forth with him and show him the history that I learned and the trauma that I have. And so, very humbly, I kept that. I didn't go home for a lot of years, but I kept that. A nephew of mine was going to high school here, and he just didn't like it. He just went to 2 different high schools. He just didn't like it. He wanted to go to a boarding school. And 80 years ago, that's not what we wanted to do. But nowadays, it's different. Nowadays, it's a choice. Nowadays, there are more natives there that you can be around and you could be close to. And so my nephew made that change, and he went to Chamawa Indian School in Oregon. So we missed him all semester, and he'd come home for the holidays, and we'd see him. And when he graduated there, so I just wrapped my arms around him and go, show me this whole campus. What is this like? Hey, this is where you've been. This is part of you. And he showed me all the campus and stuff. And I said, what's going to last the most? And he said there was one lady that worked there that had a group, that had a circle, a talking circle. And she was Native, and the students were away from home. And they needed some comfort. They needed some support. And she ran that group for them. And then all of a sudden, it clicked. I can run a group. I can run a group at my high school. I know what they go through. I know what it took for them to get to school. I know what they're going through at home for the most part. And they're really on the cusp of becoming adults, and they're gonna have to make these decisions that I made. So with my nephew giving me that information, I started a circle at Upper Lake High School, and I've been doing it for 7 years now. And we named ourselves the Wolf Pack, because we're a pack, and we look after each other. And our motto is everyone graduates. That's our motto. It doesn't mean everyone graduates today, or on time, or in 4 years, or in this school, but use the stories that come out. I went to Ukiah, and they have a thing called something Nest, I believe, and it's kind of like a continuation school, but you're just more hands-on. And I walk in there, and someone goes, "Benai." I go, "Oh, hi." He goes, "It's me, Mark, from a group." And I go, "Hey, Mark." And I "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Yeah, this is my school. This is what I do." And I graduate in like 2 months. And I go, "Oh man, that's so awesome to hear. Everyone graduates." And so our group, we go around to colleges, whether it be, this year we went to University of San Francisco. We go to Mendocino College at the end of the month, next Friday, a week from today. We have a bus, so if you need a ride. And then we went to my old alma mater in Sacramento. We've been to Chico State, which was a great one because my niece gave us that tour because she was there as a senior. So not only that, as I bring in local leaders and mentors, and one of our guests here today, Kyle Bill, was a part of our group at one time, just giving medicine. And I want this group to know who their core is and who they grew up with. And we're doing a mural. We're working on a mural now for the junior high. And I just say, like, hey, I'm here for life hacks. Let me give you some advice before you become an adult. So this has kind of snowballed into not just my group, but the school now funds us. And I never asked for funding. They're like, "Hey, do you need a bus? Let us know. If you're going to do this, we'll pay for lunch. We'll pay for." I didn't ask for any of that when I started this circle, but it is just growing. And right now, California has identified that our Indigenous and Upper Lake Unified School District has such a strong relationship, whether it be the coaches for the sports, whether it be our group at high school, whether it be our history classes where we are able to teach our history, or it be the middle school classes or middle school group. Like, they have recognized that there's a blueprint between our two tribes in that area, Hebematola as well as Robinson, working with the school district, and for the last 2 years they've been trying to work on that blueprint. So any other school district that wants to reach out and see how we did it, that's the blueprint. We've been doing that for over 2 years now. And one really cool thing, they are able to meet in person now when all these groups get together that are doing this. And they met in Los Angeles, in Southern California in mid-January. And in my talking circle, the first thing we do is introduce ourselves, who we are, what grade we're in, and what is our favorite ... food, shoes, team, Disney character, whatever it is. But I let everyone introduce themselves, because you never know when they're going to be on this side of the table. You never know when they're going to be, presenting to others. And so when they went to Southern California, they were going to do the land acknowledgement. And they thought, well, let's ask the Upper Lake Native team that's going down there. And so one of the youth from the Wolf Pack was able, in front of 400 adults, was able to do the land acknowledgement, his name, his tribe, as well as everyone else. And so I didn't know those things were going to happen. Mm-hmm. But that's what the medicine is. And so I'm just grateful to be here. I have a lot more to share, but medicine to me is restorative justice, and it's going to happen. That's what we're doing day to day, every day, by teaching our children, taking them the time, getting them to where they need to go. And if they find their balance and they find their opportunity to be themselves, restorative justice will come. That doesn't mean money. That doesn't mean land. We'll know what it means when that generation's ready. But our job is to bridge that for them. And that's what I'm doing the best I can for our community.
Thank you all very much. And we'll open to questions. And I'll go first.
I have a question.
Oh, Lori.
For you. Can you tell me about the Yuki language classes that you're working on?
They are in progress, and I haven't been able to check in with them, but we are working to have bring the language back, because when the trauma happened to us and we were slaughtered, and one of the things that they did with the 7 tribes, we were the original tribe, was the 6 tribes that came in, they were allowed to speak their language. Of course, sometimes they were beaten for doing it, but when a Yuki person spoke their language, they murdered us, they killed us.
Mhm.
And so that's why we lost our dances, we lost most of our songs, we lost just about everything that was traditional for the Yuki people. But now we are trying to bring that back, and we have some people left that can remember, and so that's really good. And they are working in the school. And along that line, I would like to, really stand in there to help them to do that, because I know the Wailiki language has been spoken there. They do have teachers for that, and which is good. I believe that all tribes should have their language to come back. It's my idea that educate all of the tribes where they came from. Like I'm also Namalaki from over the hill. I'm also Pit River through my dad. And so I want to learn their history, what happened to them and what happened to the Namalaki. I would actually like to go back and visit where my grandmother and my grandfather's from. My grandfather was a Pit River man, and my grandmother's a Namalaki.
There's at UC Davis, they have a J.P. Harrington language project. I want to get your number before I leave.
Okay.
Because they have, I coded the language for them. These are 1 million pages of field notes. It's going to be like a 25-year project, but they have, I know I've done Pit River, Achimawi, Atsugawi, I've done Northern Pomo, I've done Caddo, but they have a bunch of stuff that they give to everybody, and they give it to community people, anyone who wants to learn the language. So I want to hook them up with you guys and see what they have that might be able to help you. And I just offered you the same thing because some years ago here, I interviewed 3 speakers. It was Beverly John, Mildred Goforth, and Jeanette Holder. I have those recordings, and they shouldn't just be sitting on my hard drives and on shelves at my house. I want to give those back to those communities. I just got the audio recordings. The video recording was lost. It got stuck in the device when we were doing it. I did it when I worked as a consultant for California Indian Museum and Cultural Center. But those are good recordings. I don't even know, is Mildred still living? No? They're all gone then, huh? Oh my God, then the communities and their families need to have those. Okay, I'll make it happen.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Hi, I have a question for Eliste. There's been troubles in Covelo for a long time, and I'm wondering now why the elders are stepping up now and not in the past. How does that happen?
I think again because of the 7 tribes. And if you have one tribe in the area, you all work together, and it's easier. But when you have 6 other tribes that were forced marching in there, they didn't come over singing.
Right.
They were forced march into the valley, and at that point we had been, there weren't very many of us, and the other tribes had numbers. And so what they did was, and I know they had help from the outside to tell them that we were the bad ones. We were branded, whatever we had happened to us, that's what they told the other tribes, that these people are murderers. You can't trust them. And so that's how we were looked at. And not too long ago, I asked a lady who's close to my age, I'm 73, and I asked her, I was telling her about what we're doing with Hastings, and hopefully there's some land back, hopefully there's some cash, we deserve it. So anyway, I asked her, I was telling her about that, and she said, well, Eliste, haven't we always all been here? She's a Wailiki. And I was like, you're this old and you don't even know your history. So now I'm really big on history. I'm like, we need to know and be proud of who we are. Be proud of, even though it was bad, to stand up and move forward. And as far as the elders are going, because of that, you know, I'm a Yuki elder. I have just now stepped up to try to reach out to the other people. So far, I don't believe that I've had one other elder from the other tribe step up with me. And but we're working on it.
That's hard.
And I would like to see that happen because I think our young people do need to hear from us. They need to see that we support them. And that has been lacking for a long time in the Round Valley.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say this little bit of knowledge that I had way back when Bear Lincoln was being charged with that murder. Tony Serva, his lawyer, got up at court and pointed out that these different tribes in Round Valley, some of them were bear worshippers and some of them were bear eaters, and I'll always remember that. That kind of put the different tribes at not necessarily one group, but they were separated by their own personal customs.
We were.
I don't know if that's
That has happened.
yeah.
You know, some of the traditional dances and different things that have come in, I know didn't belong to us, you know, but we've accepted it and worked with it. I have a son back there, Philip. That's my son. He's your cousin.
Okay.
He claims to be a Pomo. He says I'm a Pomo, but he's also Yuki. But he's able now to learn his ways or learn his language, and that's really good. You know, for us, for the Yuki people, it's a struggle. You know, I go to meetings now. We've been having state of the emergency meetings, you know, for the things that are happening on the reservation. But some of them I haven't attended because they, you know, still with that, working with trying to bring the people together. And I work towards that, and it seems like it's coming along. I've had a lot of people from the other tribes step up and say, Eliste, we're with you. We want to see this happen. We want to see that we can work together because there's so much we could accomplish if we could get to that point. And that's what I want my people to know, all 7 tribes.
I would love to teach there again. I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of my best experiences in my whole life when I taught in Covelo on Friday nights, and I had all Native students. When I first went up there to recruit, I walked into a classroom, I went, whoa! It was all boys and one white girl. She goes, can I take your class? I said, yeah, get in here. Anyways, it was, the dynamics was, and man, you know what? It's hard to keep young boys from talking and scooting around a classroom. But those guys were listening to every word I said like this. All I had to do was drop a couple Bigfoot stories and they were like this. Yeah, they did. And they said, we like your stories because we already know all ours. But I know what you mean. When I was teaching up there, that was when COVID was happening. There were 21 funerals in 20 days.
Oh.
And there were several murders then too. And the reason why I went up in there, because I know communities where they feel like there's no hope, they have to have hope.
Oh.
And I bet so many times teachers have ditched them, and they feel like, okay, these classes are coming, but watch, the teacher's going to change their mind and they're not going to want to come. Nobody wants to drive all the way out there. It's beautiful driving out there. I feel like I have to pull over every 5 minutes, take pictures, because it's just so beautiful around Valley. And it's such a historic place.
It is.
When I taught history up there, I actually am giving all of my history documents over so that they could start teaching it over at the high school. But yeah, good. I'm glad to see it be taught up there. And I'm glad the language is being taught. That is really, really important.
I could believe that our language is one of the oldest languages. Yeah.
Exactly. It's an isolate.
The 5th.
It's like Wapo. There's nothing like it. There's no other language like it. It's all by itself. It's that old. That's awesome.
I say vintage.
So one of the big questions that I have is most of us here are educators or, somehow affiliated with the educational system. And we know very well that the educational system has really been used to try to force assimilation. So what advice would you give to Mendocino College, to K-12 educators in Lake and Mendocino County? What should be our priorities? What can we do to best support Native youth? I know it's a little question.
I can go first.
Right.
In this community, Lake County Office of Education has reached out, and they are working on a curriculum for different grades. And so some of it's math, because basket making is math when you do the designs and you have to do the patterns and stuff like that. So that was a great curriculum that they started. They talked to me about governance. Every tribe has a different governance, a different constitution, how they came to be, when it was instituted, and enrollments are different. Our elections are different. Like, it's so much different. We are sovereign nations, and so they interviewed me for a while, and so I'm like, yeah, when you're at this grade, you should be able to talk about earth science through our eyes, what we saw here, and take them to that place. Well, when you get a water protector, what is important about Clear Lake, how long it's been here, and proof of it. Like, take them there. It's here. It's living. The mountains, the volcano, all these things. So I think instituting a curriculum at every grade level to adapt to our community would be good, because we're talking about, not just going into history classes, but history is important to be able to explain our side. And so I think there's curriculum out there that could be developed so that each student in this area knows that they, what area they grew up in. And they can, wherever they move to, they're like, hey, how come they don't talk about the indigenous people from here? Or, hey, what is the significance of that mountain? I know what the significance of the mountains where I grew up was, or the stories of that one. So I think really instituting for all students that when that Native child's in the room and you're talking about their tribe, and their history, and their stories, you just start beaming. Because you got a day back where you got to actually be in a place where you can have that kind of pride. Because not every day that I walk out of my classrooms or my school that I think, hey, I learned something about my own tribe today or my own people today. I had to do that at home, and usually it's about politics, and usually about other families, and usually like that. But I want to work on being a curriculum for each grade as they grow, so that they can learn about whether it be land management in the way it used to be, and things like that. And I think Office of Education has really been leading that direction, in my experience. Oh.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, for you guys.
Okay.
You could finish. I don't interrupt.
Oh, okay. I was going to say sort of the same thing. I think hiring Native teachers, but that means that we need Native college graduates. Also, creating classes that are very meaningful. I'm in the process right now of creating certificate programs because I'm like, yeah, art is cool, but we need to know how to read financial reports too. We need to also learn how to do grant writing. Tribal governance and tribal administration, certificate online, completely online programs. Those would sell out. There's a tribal governance program over at the California Tribal Colleges that fills up as soon as it is offered. That's how much people want to learn, because there's always rotating tribal leaders as, each election cycle brings forward all these people that need training. But those are things, and you could do grant writing right in the class. I mean, that could be your final exam. I mean, and developing those programs. I'm creating a language class right now. It's not just going to be native language. It's going to be indigenous and minority language. It's going to be based off the UC Davis model, which I used. I'm the first person at UC Davis to petition for my foreign language requirement to be met through an indigenous language. Get it? A foreign language, an indigenous language. I know, but I did it. and then for the PhD program, you have to learn 2 native languages. So I did Central, which is what I spoke to, and I'm sorry I didn't tell you that, but that language is from Hopland, and that's from my great-great-grandpa from Yorkville, and that is how you bless an event according to him. His name was Jeff Joaquin, and that was his way, and all families had their own way of saying a blessing or a prayer. And I also forgot to thank my brother Sean Patty for teaching me that. I memorized it in 5 minutes, but it took me about 3 months to figure out what I was saying. So, but anyway, how it can help? Reaching out to resourceful people and spice it up too with different people's with different resources, all the different resources, because there's lots. Like I was saying with that Indigenous and minority language class that I'm creating, anyone could take that, and what you do is you self-teach yourself. I can facilitate the learning of anything. I believe that. I don't have to be a fluent language speaker, which I'm not. I know a lot. I'm like an emerging elder. I don't consider myself an elder yet either. I don't know what I am. I know somebody just asked me recently, well, what are elder? And I was sitting there looking down. I was like waiting, and I was like, oh shit. I looked up, they were looking at me. And I go, I'm not an elder. I'm not though. I was like, don't cold call on people like that. Curriculum is coming. I'm part of a group called California Indian Scholars and Studies Association. It's called CISA. It's made up mostly of Native American women PhD holders. We are all working on a California curriculum that could rival Montana and Washington State. So, and there's also some other sources. There's other sources that you can use. You guys have your own sources right here, especially with your stories that involve your local landscape. Those are the things that are really important, I think. That's the way you can support it. And by putting money in your budget for these programs.
Oh.
You have to, because you can't expect the burden of cultural people and people of color to carry the burden all the time for free and to be volunteers while everybody gets to earn a living for the rest of their life. I mean, you know, you can't, you just don't do that. So you've got to compensate people for their time and whatnot. So that's what I suggest. What do you think?
Well, I believe we need more educators to help the Native people, and they need to be encouraged. You know, I went to this school in Round Valley Reservation, which is, you know, does not have a lot to offer. But my mom had a 3rd grade education, and she had problems with, you know, reading and writing, but from then on I took over and I had to do it on my own. I was a straight A student, and I had some dreams that I wanted to do. You know, I at one time wanted to be a doctor, then I wanted to be an attorney, and I ended up doing neither. I met the love bug, you know, and so I decided not to do that. I've always encouraged my children, my daughters, that you know, move ahead no matter what. And a lot of times we, you know, had to struggle with the other tribes who kept us down. You know, if there was money that, you know, it came through the tribes for education. Well, the other tribes always took the money, and the Yuki people were left out. So that was a big problem. But I would suggest that you be supportive to the people, and like I said, their story needs to be told. They need to feel good about telling their story, about who they are, what happened to them, so that it's long hidden, and it's like an embarrassment. You know, I'm a Native student, who a lot of these other people here in the room, you know, I'm ashamed of what happened to me, when it should have been reversed, and the person who did this to us should be ashamed and embarrassed of what they did, but that didn't happen. So I would just say encouragement, you know, even from the Native people, our own people, that with the little girl that we lost, it's just sad happening because no one reached out to her. No one reached out to say, you know, are you okay? And that happens on the res a lot. I know it happens in other places too, you know, with other people. But to see that she just slipped through our fingers, you know, and that's really hard to live with. And it makes me want to say, we need to do something. We need to, I'm 73. I did, you know, step up before, earlier in my life, and I did do a few things. I helped the students, you know, at the school. I would take them to school. If they had a problem, I'd go and talk because their parents didn't want to go to school and talk, you know, to the teachers or the other people. But I would always do that. I would step up and say, you know, I'm a Yuki person, but, you know, you're an Umlaki or some other, you know, the tribe, but I'll go with you, you know, and we'll go down there and we'll get this straightened out. And most of the time, if they didn't have anyone to help, they were kicked out of school.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to them. So nobody cared, you know, but if they had one person and they wanted to go to have a meeting, then that changed. And they felt good about themselves because they had somebody behind them. And I think that has a, you know, we need to work towards that on our own reservations and to help with the struggle that our people are having. It's definitely a problem. You know, I look back, and for everything that we have not made much progress in the education world. It's still a struggle. But I'm believing like you that we can do it. We can do that. And our people can move forward and, you know, move ahead. So.
But my name is Kyle Bill. I'm the Executive Director of Konokotai Native Wellness. Konokotai is the proper pronunciation for the mountain, which means two old sisters. So we're educating other people, but I wanted to share with our elders and thank the panel. I know Lori, my wife's taken classes with you, so we've had some wonderful conversations in our home around your guys' discussion. So although I'm not a college student myself, my wife is at Cal Poly, going to be graduating with her bachelor's and going to the master's program for social work. So we have some amazing conversations in our home around like social justice and change and things like that. So I feel like I'm going to earn part of her. But our nonprofit had, I wanted to share that we were actually at Round Valley last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the day before that young girl passed, and she was in our class with us. So I just wanted to share that we shared a space with her, and we told her how important they were, and that we were there, and that it's very unfortunate, but we were there with her, and our hearts are with them, and we travel all over. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the question that was asked around when we talk about Native issues. A lot of times we always talk in the past tense, as if those issues still don't currently exist. We do some work around the school to prison pipeline, and what we found through that data and research is Lake County actually has 3 of the top 30 schools in the entire state of California with highest ranks of Native student suspensions from kindergarten through 12. 2 of those schools hold the 9th place and the 5th place for the highest suspensions in the entire state. And so what I was wanting to ask is, a lot of times as Native people, we've always felt these injustices, but we were never able to quantify or prove through a Western lens that those injustices existed. But I think through our people being more educated and coming back to serve our tribal people, that data is starting to be collected and brought to the forefront so that we can prove those injustices have existed and do currently exist. So I wanted to ask, what barriers do you see that continue to exist within the school system that could be overcome by different approaches, I think, that might be more effective? Because I know that one of the things that what I liked about my wife when we went up to Humboldt is they have the ITEP program, which is where they have Native students and Native teachers and there's a space on campus just for them. And so I felt like, the more Native people see themselves in those institutions, I think they get more of a sense of belonging and that they're a part of that versus being a guest there in some place. So in your perspective, what barriers do exist? What are some unique approaches? I appreciate you talking about engaging other people, because especially tribal and community people, because it seems like a lot of times people don't listen unless you have letters behind your name. And that when we look at that, we kind of limit our abilities to really address issues in the community. So I just wanted to pose that to you all for discussion.
Thank you, sir. That way you guys can. I was already writing my notes.
Go for it.
So one of the barriers that we had at Upper Lake prior, about 7-8 years ago, even before I started mine, was that there's no communication between the Rancheria, the education center that we have at the Rancheria, and the school district. And so one of our tribal members became a school board member at Upper Lake. And so as a school board member, we finally had our first school board member. There's someone in these meetings, there's someone that can advocate for us, there's someone who can explain our side. And then at that time, Upper Lake said, we're just gonna go with one board instead of two. And so they combined them. And she was one of the people that fell out of that spot. But what she wanted was a Native American action committee that came out of it. So I just wanted to share something like an action committee in your community really has been beneficial. It's a monthly check-in, what we're doing with our tribes, what our students are doing, what they might be struggling with, what we might be going through, some grief at our rancheria, that the people at the school just don't know. Why aren't these students coming? You know, why every day, you know, everyone passes away. No. Like, you have to have an explanation. And that NAC, you want, or we call it NAC, Native American Action Committee, but it has the superintendent in that committee. It has the principals in that committee, and that's where we're able to share the stuff from our group, the stuff from our trips. We're able to share, for an example, they're like, we have 1 day off next year, we don't know what to do with it. I said, take California Indian Day off, that way our kids don't have to have an actual absence, because we let them stay home for California Indian Day. So like, well, what's California Indian Days? I'm like, all right, sit down, we'll talk about this. But those kind of, like that kind of group, that kind of committee, that kind of commitment from the superintendent and the principals, if that's possible, that's where dialogue can happen. And I think dialogue is where action can happen. So I think that's one barrier in a lot of these communities. They just don't have that one-on-one. But you really do need a superintendent that, and I'll talk about Dr. Noose because he has been the person on the front line helping us. But also the school board reached out to our community and said, would you be on the committee to select our next superintendent? And so we were able to even ask those who are applying for the job, what do you think about Indigenous studies? What do you think about Indigenous history? What is your experience with it? And so that was a really reach out. So just got to keep working. Hope you get that superintendent. Right now, the principal, I went to school with her for 6 years at Upper Lake. So she knows me. So when I said, I do this group, she's like, keep doing it. How can I support you? So just, alumni having an effect, alumni coming back, being that mouthpiece, and then having these potential committees can really, I think, help a lot of barriers.
Problems I've seen, I've been battling school boards for years. I've sat in IEP meetings and have wanted to shred them to pieces because I walked out every single time crying. I didn't feel like the school supported me at all. I had a son who was in ADHD and with a whole bunch of other little boys all placed on Ritalin and Risperdal and everything else, and they told me that he most likely was going to become a drug addict, and by God he did. He became addicted to meth, and he's been in prison 3 times now. He has 2 strikes. I fought with school boards to get his rights because he had a right to an education, because what you often see, and it's something that my kids have gone through, is something that I've gone through, is what my dad went through, and probably his dad, but his dad went to a Rancheria day school, so I don't know. And that is the inequality when it comes to penalizing students who do wrong. And when you look at the data, it shows. And it's been happening for a long time, and people get really mad when you raise those issues of inequality up. And so what's needed is more research, more quantitative, qualitative research to come up with the numbers. Those are the sorts of things that demonstrate the cause for funding shifts, the need for staff to be hired. In Point Arena, they actually hired a person to ride the bus so that people can get to school. We had a principal that said that Indians don't care about their kids. They're never here for parent-teacher conferences. Well, that's because most of them don't even have cars or don't have gas to get to town. We're lucky if we can ride to town to check your mail once a week. And so all of those things have to be discussed, and I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere with the superintendent over in Point Arena. It was just more white guilt, doesn't like being talked to. So why do you guys just hate white people with these stereotypes? And it was just, oh. So one of the solutions was to create a Native American Parent Advisory Committee and do it for every high school. Do it for every college. Does that mean that the problems are all going to get solved? Maybe not. Another thing that I think, a barrier that needs to happen, is people need to stop being anti-education. As an educated person, I know exactly what Lenata Warjack went through and it's this attitude that what we do isn't important, and getting told that, and having people who tell it, and it's Native men who do it the most to me. Native American men have, seems like, chips on their shoulder if I go get a degree, and I have been the subject of lots of attacks in the past 15 years since I've been, I'm still finishing up my degree. And that's really hard to, it's hard to handle. We need to stop rejecting educated people from our communities when they go get educated and they come home and you say, oh, go do that. And then they come home and people who are threatened by them are people who maybe didn't have that opportunity. But we shouldn't be like that to each other, because that just teaches anti-education, that reading and writing is wrong, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with knowing how to read and write. You gotta have somebody who can read those books. Otherwise, you don't know if you're gonna get ripped off by people when they're gonna be running your nations someday, right? That's what I keep saying. Don't rely on per capita. You always gotta have a backup plan. What are you gonna do if gambling becomes legal in California? What are you gonna do? But those issues, as far as the unequal, I mean, there's so much data. I've just been recently finding more about that because of the absenteeism. Probably the biggest factor and the biggest thing of getting students to school, getting students to want to go to school. Those are some of the things. The support, some schools are better than others at support. Sometimes you might even have a Native American person who's blocking things, who's your gatekeeper working in that school. Nobody wants to talk about those things, but that's true and it happened. That person could be a Pentecostal holy roller who hates Indians, and they're blocking all the funding and they're blocking all this. And believe me, we went through it. We went through it in Point Arena for 30 years. I was like, please just retire, please. No, seriously, I was begging. And now things are going really cool. In fact, I'm going to be teaching a dual enrollment course in Point Arena next spring, and creating a language curriculum for them, and I'm just going to give it to them. Now, people told me, oh, you should be charging for that, Lori. Then I'll never get taught. Don't you guys realize they hardly have any money? All school districts are suffering, and so I just give it to people. I just gave Round Valley all my stuff for my class and everything. I just gave it to her. I said, here, you can have it. So I don't believe in that. I mean, yeah, that would be ideal, but I want the subject matter to be taught. So.
Oh.
So what do you think?
I agree with you two. I like what he said about, having people work together. from the red. We really don't do that in Round Valley. There's no tribal step up. I want to see our people that sit on the council at the meetings to show our people that they care about them. And I haven't seen that happen. And when I did mention it to, maybe yesterday, to a person, they said, oh, we have a board that works with the school board, and they're natives. I didn't know that. They never came and introduced themselves to me or said, you know, you have grandchildren, and that's why I'm really interested in school, because I have grandchildren there, nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
And I do want to answer to when you said a holy roller, the Christian. I am a holy roller and a Christian. But you know what? I love working with the traditional people. And we have been able to, my son goes, he takes me, you know, to their meetings, and I feel good about going. I feel good about, because this is about Creator who teaches to love everybody.
Oh.
Yeah.
When I say the prayer, and for a while they were asking me to say a prayer, and I would say a Christian prayer, you know, and I think they were expecting, you know, some, you know, in the native tongue. But I would always say Creator, Creator of all, good and bad. Creator who knows all, who sees all, who knows the intents of the heart. And why we're at this meeting, why we're here, we gathered today. You know, and that prayer really went well with them. And so I've been able to work with them, and I'm really happy about that. And they don't see me as a, here comes this holy roller, you know, this person's going to disrupt or tell us that we're bad. I tell them that Creator loves all, every race, everybody, and we can all learn to work together. I was taught that by my grandfather. He lived to be around 100 years old. I think I was around 10 years old when he passed away. But he gave me a lot of good teaching, and I told these people, the traditional people, I said, one day I opened up the Bible and started reading, and there was everything that my grandfather taught me. How to be a good person, how to, and I think that's missing in our native culture. You know, we don't no longer, I don't talk to my grandchildren like I should. My grandfather, I sat by him playing with my oak balls, you know, from my little dog toys. Yeah. And I would look up at him and he would say, you need to be good. You need to be good to people. Don't be mean to the other tribes. They were all, you know, they all suffered. I remember that. And one day, I think I was around 30 years old, and I said, oh, that's why he was telling me that. So I could have a good life. Oh. So that I could help other people. I could help my people, you know, and help my family. So, and then what he told, like I said, I saw it in the Bible, and I was like, oh, so Creator is good. But I would like to see us work more, you know, from the tribal part at the school. That's what we need. That would be so good, because, like, again, going back to the little girl that we lost, that which is really sad, because somebody, the educators, somebody from the tribal council should have seen, you know, should have been aware of what was going on with her, and they weren't. Or if I believe that they were, but they didn't step up. You know, and the whole, you know, our place is just really in mourning right now, and something that didn't need to happen, did not need to happen. And so I talked to another lady who's a Christian, and she said, what do you think we should do? And I said, I think it's time for us to stand up and recognize we could make that change. We need to do something. Too long we have sat back and not tried to help with the education, trying to help with counseling with our own children. Maybe we could have an elders committee, you know, even for the school. And one person, I call him JB, he used to be my son's basketball coach. He was telling me the other day, he said, I think we need something at the school where the kids check in the morning, and it could be, you know, not only the native students. Oh, I know, yeah. And just, yeah, and check in, you know, and make contact, how are you doing, and have people in there saying, you know, did you have something to eat yet? You know, are you hungry? You know, how's your day going? And I thought, that's a wonderful idea, because you're making contact with our students, you're talking to them, and most of the time I found that the native students, they do want help. They just don't know how to, you know, go about reaching that help or getting anyone to listen to them. But I think that would be a good idea. And I do like what you two said. I agree with that.
Yeah. I know there's not enough mental health help, I know that. I mean, I just know even just people who I know, and even myself in my life, I mean, trying to get any kind of behavioral health services right now, it's really difficult. And I just recently moved, and oh my God, I should have never, ever, ever complained about Consolidated. I'll never complain again because I'm in Santa Rosa now, and it's worse. It's just the healthcare is just so much worse. You know, my husband, he's not a federally recognized Indian, so he doesn't have PRC. So it's like our lives are so different now, and we can't even get in. I mean, good luck getting into a dentist in 7 months. And so I think I'm going to go back to Consolidated and just drive up there myself because I'm a member of Hopland. But yeah.
I'd like to say something. In full disclosure, I am not an educator. I'm a father of 8, grandfather of 12. Relative to this maybe Armageddon that's coming our way, I have been saying the degree to which we are battering the earth, we are also battering the human psyche. Things are just going crazy. But I have for some time been aware of a K-12 curriculum that Doreen Nelson from Cal Poly actually formulated back in the 1980s. And it pretty much, I don't know why, but it's brilliant, and it's called City Building Education. And it's K-12, and it's about actually building you put these tables together and you spend your whole day, your whole semester, your whole year building a city. And she changed it to design-based learning. It is now being promoted from UCLA Center X, which is their education thing. But this gives, Doreen says that, you know, the kids don't want to go out to recess. They want to come in after school. They get involved with building the city and building a social structure that has to meet all of the needs of the people and represents each one of the students that's there. So if you're Native, if you're black, if you're female, whatever is going on, that is part of the group that works together. Because that's what we have to do to face the future, is learn how to work together. I mean, we're social animals. So I want to talk to you afterwards a little bit, because I got something going on. But I'd just like to put that out there. It's not pointedly for Native Americans, but I think it includes them in the whole process. You don't call it a city building education, call it a village building, or you could call it a culture building, but they build a model that everybody works together. And so when they graduate at the end, it's not one person graduates, it's the whole class graduates, because the whole class made that city, that living, that social structure. And social is what we need to face. Social is what we are. Anyway, I thank you. Anyway, I just encourage anybody to go to UCLA Center X and look into that. It's there. Design-based education, and there's all kinds of documentation of how well it works for all of the learning. Social studies, math, reading, all of it works in, and the grades are better in all of those.
We have an online question from one of our instructors. For the panel, do you have any recommended authors or books that we can incorporate into our classes to provide more cultural representation for Native students?
I do. Cam Tam by Kishan Lara Cooper and Walt Lara. It doesn't just talk about the sad story of our genocide, talks about hope for the future, and the book ends with 4 essays written by teenagers about what sovereignty means. Because if you can't understand that, you're never going to understand Indians. You've got to learn it, and it's so hard. That concept is really, really hard for people, but that has a lot of hope for the future. CAM-TEM, KAM-TEM. And it's Kishan, Kishan. Last name Lara, Lara, dash Cooper. She's awesome. Her and her dad's awesome.
Mine's contemporary. It's Sherman Alexie. He's out of Washington State, and he does a lot of biographical, semi-biographical about his experience. And I think it relates to some students, you know, being on a rancheria, but going to school off the rancheria, not feeling like you're because you go to school off the rancheria or reservation, and then you come home, people look at you differently. But then when you go to school off the reservation, people look at you differently. So he had this really good vibe about what contemporary Native Americans might be going through with the way they look, or the way, just their family dynamic, or their resources, or things like that. So he's been someone I followed.
Do you have any favorite books?
Not really. I like reading, but with all the grandchildren, and I've not really been able to read that much. But I did, you know, when I was in school. I loved to read. I try to get back to it once in a while, but I know that because I liked to read like I said, when I was in high school, I opened up this book that I can't even remember the name of it, but it was about the slaughter of the Yuki people. I was just horrified. I shut that book, and I didn't even want to touch that book. I just pushed it aside like it was something so bad, you know, that I couldn't believe that happened to us. And I remember asking my sister, she was older than I, she was 17 years older than I was. So I said, "Sis, what can we do about this? Look what happened to us." And I always remember her answer to me, and it's sort of where we're at in the valley, still. She told me, she goes, "Oh, we can't talk about that." And I said, "Why not? Look what happened to us. You know, something should be done. This is the United States." And she said, "No," she said, "people will be angry." And I said, "You mean these people that did this?" She said, "No, the other tribes."
Yeah.
That was like, I was just blown away. I was like, why would they be mad about us trying to get justice, you know?
Oh.
But that's how the situation, and we still much are in that same situation. But that's what I have to deal with. And so I was quiet, because we need to be quiet. And that's what my grandfather taught me, the one that gave me all the good, you know, information, was that you can't go around talking about who you are. Now I remember that one of my grandfathers was chief, but we were told never to tell during this time that we could ever say that, because it might cause, you know, the other tribes to kill us, you know, and he was really stern about that. You can't tell who you are. You cannot speak up as a Yuki person and say, "This is who I am," because you're not going to be allowed to do that. So I grew up with that fear. And it wasn't really fear to me, because I was one of those people that said, no, let's push ahead. Well, I don't want to live under that. And I recently told our tribal council at a meeting, I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to be under your thumb, where everybody gets all the good stuff. They get all the homes, they get all the jobs, they get all the money, their kids go to school, they ride around in nice trucks, and while I have nothing, I'm living in a probably 20-year-old condemned trailer that's freezing cold in the winter and boiling hot in the summer. But you know what? I do feel blessed, even after all of that. I'm blessed to be here, and blessed to have a chance to work with my family, to see that something can be done for them, that it can turn out a better way of life for them. So through all our struggles, and I think they're good. I think they're good. I tell the people, keep struggling, keep hanging in there, you know, don't let people put you down. It was a struggle for me when I went to school because of my skin color. I remember being this little girl and looking at my skin color thinking, "You're beautiful." Oh my gosh, you know, you're so beautiful. And then going to school and being told that, you know, I was
Dirty
a dark
Indian.
person, you know, and I was a no good Indian, you know. But I struggled through that. And even though I always had this idea that my mom only had that 3rd grade education, it was a struggle for me because we didn't have a car. You had to go to the library. Now you just get those little things on and tap into it, you know, and you got all the information there. And I'm like, wow, well, I was an A student back then. What would I have been with all that before me, you know? But we had to go to, I had to wait, you know, and try to get into the library to do my reports. It was really hard. And then no support from a lot of white teachers did not like me because of my skin color. And this one guy, he came from Texas, and he's a well-known teacher up there. Finally, in the end, I won his respect. I was his top student. But that's only because he seen that I never gave up. I never gave up, and I know that he did not like me. But I worked with that, and I kept pushing forward, you know. Most students, I realize now, probably would have dropped out, you know, but I didn't do that. I think I had a little bit of my dad in me. My dad graduated when he was 16 and had his mother lie for him, and he went to the Army, so he ended up being in World War II. And this very young kid, you know, and I can remember things thinking about, you know, why would my dad sign up and go to a war for a country that, look what they did to us, you know?
That was their only way of
Yeah.
getting money, though.
I guess.
Do you remember my Uncle Angelo Knight?
I do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He signed up when he was 15. He was
Yeah.
World War I and II.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But they said that was the only way that they could give their mother money to. They didn't have soup kitchens. They didn't have EBT cards back then. I mean, Indians couldn't even go anywhere in Ukiah except for the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
That used to be down at the end of town by that Kawasaki place now, down by Mendo Mill.
Mhm.
There used to be a Chinese restaurant in the back there. And that's where the only, like all my Uncle Ken Heat and all them, they all
I
come
remember
home
that.
with medals. 8 brothers all fought in World War II, and Indians couldn't even vote here till, what, 1958?
Mm-hmm.
When the man right over here, Ethan Anderson, was the first Indian to vote. Yeah, there was a lot of injustices, a lot of things I had to overcome. Back to the books, there's a really good one right now. I can't think of the name. Indian Paleo. Paulette Steeves, Steeves. It looks so interesting. She's an archaeologist, and she's up at university. She's in Canada. I swear all my favorite scholars are all up in Canada. Oh, and Kim Tallbear. If you want to follow anyone interesting on Twitter, Kim Tallbear's your gal. She scares me. She's so freaking smart. I just love her. Everything I can get my hands on with her. I'm going to try to come up with a list, because I do have a list, but I can't remember any of them right now. I just submitted a wish list to the library for 47 books. They got all my movies for me. I got like 15 films purchased for the license at Santa Rosa Junior College Library. Yeah.
So the book that Eliste was referring to about the history of Round Valley, I have a Xerox copy of something called Stolen Valley.
That might have
Stolen
been.
Valley, and Buffy Wright brought it to our attention at the Leadership Mendocino alumni meeting, and she had a copy of it. She had Xeroxed it. So that's a book that really tells how abusive the white overseers were to the native people that were in Round Valley, and how they stole the land, and what their names are. So that might have been the book you were horrified to read.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know that some of when Mr. Hastings did that to us with the Yuki people, he liked it to document stuff. That's why we have him.
Yeah.
It's not like a lot of the reservations say, oh, we know somebody came in here and this is what they did,
Yeah.
but they can't put a name on it.
Right.
He liked it to put down, you know, I killed this many Indians this day.
Yeah, that's nice.
This is how I did this. I shot a 12-year-old girl because she was stubborn.
Oh God, I've read those.
Yeah.
So Stolen Valley, I don't know if you can get it at a library, but
You can find all of those on the Native American Heritage Commission website.
Okay.
If you Google genocide map, it's really rough though. I have to warn you, before you read that, it's gonna hurt. I had to actually turn it off because I was bawling like a baby. Because it's firsthand accounts, and it's actually doing my dissertation work. I discovered that my great-great-great-grandmother was killed at Russian River Massacre 4 days following Bloody Island. And it was from Lieutenant Lyon himself. His original report tells how, you know, she died a humiliating death. And God, that was hard for me. And I used to lecture, and I used to be able to just talk about it freely without my face feeling like it turned to cement. It hurt so bad that I couldn't even talk. You know when you ever get hurt so bad, or you're so sad, overcome with grief so bad that you can't even speak?
Yeah.
That's how it feels, that historical trauma. And it's like I inherited that from all of that, even though I never even knew that lady. And my daughter just presented at Harvard Med School about historical trauma, about how she also inherited that, but how she's getting rid of it, and how she's stopping it and starting new traditions. And even though, you know, I try to hug my kids and they're like, get away from me, I'm too much, too much. But that's because I was raised by a person who wasn't hugged by anybody. And so I'll never forget the first time I ever tried to hug my mom, she pushed me away. And she said I hurt her effing back. And I was mortified as a kid. I was just like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never trying to be affectionate ever again. But it was because no one had told her she was special, ever. But the reason why I feel good is that I had a good mom and I had a good dad. And that's how I grew up feeling confident about myself, and that's why I carry myself the way that I do. I have parents that love the hell out of me, and I know that not everybody has that. But all you need is one person to believe in you. Teachers were the ones that did it for my parents. They didn't have parents. It was surrogate white women who were teachers that loved them. And so that's why I grew up with the respect for teachers, and that's why I always wanted to be one. So I can help someone feel good about themselves the same way that my teachers did with me growing up. And they're still all my friends. They're all my Facebook friends, my teachers. I just gave a lecture at Puerto Rico Lighthouse a couple of years back. Well, yeah, it was about 5 years back. I looked out in the crowd and I didn't realize that they were all sitting out there because they had aged too, like me. But it was a wonderful feeling. But yeah, those the Round Valley ones are the absolute worst that I've read, where I had to actually stop. And so that's why it's always good to tell people when they're reading that it's okay to walk away for a while, give them trigger warnings and say, hey, this is really violent, it's horrifically, you need to be really careful whether you can handle this or not, and if you can't, it's okay. But in order to heal, we have to acknowledge that those things happened without blame, without shame, without any guilt at all. I tell my students, don't carry the burden of Governor Peter Burnett from 1850. You are not that crazy man who hated blacks so bad that he tried to make it illegal to live for black people to live in Oregon even. You know, you're not Peter Burnett. You're not those local militias who are running around killing Indians for money. The Eel River Rangers and the Humboldt Guard and all the rest of the gang, you know. You're not them. So you don't have to carry that. That's what I tell my students every time. And I told them also, calm down when I say white people. I'm just describing a group of people. It's just a term. It's like, we're natives, we're Indians, or whatever, you know, we're the recipients of all these classification systems, for goodness sakes. Southern Pomo, Eastern Pomo, Northern Pomo. So I always tell them that too. So, but that's why, because I know a lot of people they come into my classroom and they're like, oh God, I didn't realize I was going to be this sad. I said, I know, it is sad. I said, but you know what? I said, don't feel sorry for Indian people. Indian people don't want you to feel sorry for them. No. We survived all that. Just think, you know, when I tell the story of how my grandmother died and then how I'm here, I mean, I'm here and now I've got a daughter here and I show all the generations from the photos go down the line. If that woman did not survive as a 6-year-old, just like how the survivors of Bloody Island over here and Lucy Young up north and all over, all the different survivors that you see of these massacres. You know, there's a very good chance that I wouldn't be sitting here. Probably I wouldn't be Lori. I don't know what I'd be. I don't know, maybe be a bird flying around outside. Who knows? I don't know. But that's what I do, because it is a tough subject to teach. But it's not all sad stories. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good stories in there. I'm an oral history fanatic. I want to do an oral history project and let the students be the published authors and teach them how to, conduct interviews. We're in need of that. Every county is in need for that. Those are all projects, you guys. You should be perking up.
I would just like to say too that, like I said, I love to read books. And at a certain point, I looked at all the people that I knew that had, their ancestors had done these bad things to us. And I was like, how could you do that? How could you kill somebody, And I was always a highly prejudiced person myself. I knew that about myself when I was young. But I could not kill some other person's children.
Oh.
I could not do that. Even if I didn't care about them. I could not do that. I could not kill somebody's old grandmother, I look at these people, and then I went back. We were in a Truth and Healing meeting. I don't know if you've been in any of those yet.
I know.
But I was talking to the ladies that were there, and I said, I remember reading in one of my textbooks, I don't know if any of you are the same age as me or close to my age, and I'm not sure what grade it was. And I always remember reading this little piece in that book that said that a lot of the people that were sent to the United States were the bottom of the barrel people that they were not being, they couldn't do it, they were murderers. They were all the bottom of the barrel people, and they were put on ships and they were sent over here. So me and my reasoning, and now I'm 73, I'm like, so that's why they could kill us. They're not thinking anything about it. No. So you're forgiven. I had to come to that reason to make myself feel good. I was like, how could you do something like that? I couldn't. As much as I hated a race or something, I could not do that to them. So that was my consolation, and I carried that. They thought that was really good, and some of them remembered. They said, oh yeah, but I don't know if any of you read the same text or some of your grandmothers or something, but that's kind of how I settled it with me. I said, okay, now I understand.
I use the book that teaches that.
Mm-hmm.
Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz teaches about the indigenous people's history of the United States. This is my favorite book.
Roxanne.
Dunbar Ortiz. I use that in all my classes. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, an indigenous people's history of the United States. All Willie Bauer's work is really awesome. I like Greg Sarris's work too.
Yeah.
He just-
I have to start picking up some of these names you keep dropping.
Oh yeah, Willie Bauer is Round Valley. He's got great stories. Oh my God, I felt like I did my whole family tree just page for page. I was like, oh my God. Oh. And then Willie Bauer's work. God, there's so many. I'm going blank. There's just too many. I have too many books. I'm like reading multiple ones right now, about 10 of them at a time. But I'll come up with a better list for you guys next time.
You can send me a list. if
I'll,
you would
I'll
like.
send you a list and you can send it out to anybody who wants it. And,
Did any of our panelists have a final? I don't want to keep you all. I really appreciate all of your time, but if you have any final words of wisdom to wrap us up.
Keep us in good thoughts. If you pray, however you pray for us. We continue to pray for you, that we can all work together, and we can help each other. We are considered to be one of the greatest countries, and let's make it be that. Thank you.
I'd like to say a proverb that was written by my great-great-aunt Essie Parrish from Stewart's Point. And she said, learn all that you can, do all that's in you, and bring it out for the world to see, especially the children, so they won't give up along the way.
Thank you. It's an honor to be up here and be on this panel. As you know, we're a matrilineal society, so I just let them go. Let them talk. I'm just as captivated, so thank you both. For me, just one that sticks out right now is, plant the trees that will have shade that you'll never sit under. Plant them for another generation. Plant them for others that need that kind of protection of that shade that you'll never sit under. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my community, my tribe, and our family going forward. So, thank you.